Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. We're just going to take a quick look, kind of, at a glance, what happened this week and where we're going to be going moving forward here. Good news is Bitcoin is still on the bullish side of things here, as far as just breaking free from its descending trend line, maintaining a decent range here. It's still range bound too, though, for the most part, so I wouldn't get too excited. However, there's some benefits here, and we didn't establish any lower lows, but we're establishing tentative higher highs. So it's a unique channel. We're going to talk about that and a few other things. So stick around, watch to the end. So it'll only be beneficial for you to continue through. And if you want to hit the like button down below, I deeply appreciate that. Friendly reminder to do that every time you watch. All right, so take a quick look here at Bitcoin back-end liquidation data. We can see a pretty acute number here, that 99,700. Heavy amount of liquidation there, probably ballparking here. Each one of these red bars is about 1 to 2 billion. So there's probably some in the range of 10 to 15 billion at that level alone. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that we're just going to go up because of it. Just implies a lot of resistance, but also a lot of liquidation. Okay. You got to recognize liquidation and resistance levels or support. They are very concurrent in a lot of ways. It's because a lot of people feel confident in taking a short at 100,000, for example, or with a stop loss in that range, because the price action is consistently rejected at like 98 to 99,000. We took a short from, what was it, 98.5, and we were able to find some good profit there, about 26% in a roughly about 24 hours. So again, good stuff there. We basically be taking longs at 95 and shorts at roughly 98 to 99,000. So that's kind of where we're at there. At this point, hypothetically, there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out, so it's probably best to be careful in just continuing that. But the truth is, we're stuck in a range, and until that range breaks, we got to assume it'll continue. There's that too, right? Same thing with trends. You stick to the trend until the trend breaks. Regardless of how maybe emotionally attached you are to a coin or not, it's important to recognize that all good projects will pull back, because money is the fundamentals mean very little in the overall sentiment as far as how great the project is. I'm not talking about Bitcoin, just in general altcoins for the most part there. Anyways, just to clarify here, 94,700. So we got 94.7 and 99.7 of those two heavy pockets of concentration of liquidation. And we're just about in the middle to the lower half of that range. So that's kind of where we're at there. Not too much else to note for the macro. It's about the same scenario here. We got the two large channels, just say, round number 94,000 and 100,000. We're kind of stuck in that range. When we take a look at the liquidation delta, we can kind of recognize that we're drawn dead and we're pretty flat here. In other words, a lot of longs got destroyed, as I mentioned last night or 2 nights ago when we took our short, to ensure that, when you get liquidation delta too high, 10 billion plus, which is where it hit 12 at its highest point, that means we have too much greed in the market, and that's going to be corrected. Say market makers know that. They like to drive the price action in the opposite direction. We haven't really seen these consistent pumps from Bitcoin. It's always pumping and dumping, up and down, up and down. So again, until that changes, we just got to presume it's going to continue. Anyways, now that we're kind of zeroed out or bottomed out, it just kind of implies it's not a good condition to trade into. Again, this is a weekend, it's kind of low volatility, low volume, generally not favorable. When it comes to open interest, 98,000 is that local resistance range. So just know if we get back up to 98K, we could very well see some resistance. And locally here, we see 95,000, big surprise, a lot of buying power there, a lot of heavy positions essentially. Okay, now keep in mind, when we have these large pockets of open interest, they're usually not people like you and I, okay? So just bear that in mind. So either way you look at it here, we're going to look at the daily time frame. And then, of course, as per usual on Mondays, just so you know, I always like to look at the weekly. So we'll omit doing that so far because the weekly candlestick hasn't closed. But when we look at the daily time frames, just to give you perspective, in case you're not familiar when you didn't see my analysis from yesterday, these lines here are basically just gauges of how weekends have performed. All right, basically we're 6 out of 6 red weekends for the year. It doesn't imply that we're going to see a red weekend today. It's just statistically, it makes sense to expect that. All the more reason to kind of be very careful and respect long positions today. If you are in a long position, you're in the green, move your stop loss higher. Don't be super greedy. You're not going to go to the moon on anything until we surpass 100,000 on Bitcoin. I think there's a distinct probability we're not going to see much volatility, not a lot of volume flowing into altcoins until that happens, right? So just keep that in mind. Anyways, that's what those are there for. And we look here, we're below the 20 and the 50-day SMA. Yesterday we were above the 20, for example, but we have a bearish engulfing candle. So that basically implies the last 24 hours was extremely bearish, and that taking a long into that is usually not recommended, okay? Same thing here as well. We're under 50 on the RSI, rejected quite soundly there off that level. We can recognize that stochastic is swinging up. Whoop-de-doo, it doesn't really matter too much. Same thing with the MACD as well. Some folks put a lot of emphasis on those, and if everything else is concurrent with it, then yes, it makes sense. But if you have a MACD convergence and everything else is bearish, you maybe want to be careful taking that long, right? So that's the general consensus there. So just kind of throwing it out there again. I might repeat myself. I'm sorry for those who might maybe frustrated by that. I don't know if you are, but if that is the case, just know I'm trying to make sure everyone learns as much as they can. Because again, we have a lot of new traders coming over to the community or my videos. I just like to make sure that I ensure that you know what best practice should look like. Again, I'm not a moon boy. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm just going to tell you what I see in the charts. 4-hour time frame, we are below now. Isn't this funny? Every time we get confirmation the price is going to break out, rips right back down. Keep in mind, this was a significant fundamental catalyst. There was $1.4 billion in liquidation. Sorry, $1.4 billion stolen from Bybit, basically hacked. There's some kind of whole thing with Ethereum, and that factored in pretty heavy. So keep in mind that wasn't just that was a bit of an outlier, but also something that pushed the price action down. Once more, we still see that consistency at 99 to 100,000, that resistance range. But once more, that also probably factored in. There's no doubt about it. Either way you look at it here, we can see we're under 50 in the RSI. Generally not favorable to take a long end of that. We're under our moving average there. Stochastic is swinging up. MACD is trying to converge, but again, it's a weekend, folks. Look at this volume. You don't trade weekends. At least it's best not to. Granted, I have had some success in the past opening trades on Fridays and seeing that continue to ride, but it also resets itself too on occasion. So for the most part, I would say you're probably 50-50 odds on success in trading weekends, and it's just really not the most ideal. You want to trade with the volume and volatility, and there's not a lot of it right now. Either way, mostly bearish signs on the 4-hour time frame, which makes sense considering how much selling pressure we saw yesterday. It'll take a little while for these indicators to get reset. We can also see a pretty significant order block here at about 99,300. I shared that with my community when we were at like 98.5 yesterday. A lot of folks were able to short successfully. So congrats on leaving those shorts open and continuing to achieve that profit. Right now, do I recommend keeping a short position open? I would say no, but I also don't recommend taking a long either. And I know it seems crazy and weird. What the heck is this guy doing? He's not telling me to take a trade. What's wrong with this guy? No, truthfully, the better traders, I would say, the more consistent ones find better opportunities and wait for the opportunities that they want to find. Or more importantly, you don't sit here trying to analyze the charts, trying to convince yourself to take a trade. Do the opposite of that. I assure you, you're going to have more success, albeit maybe less frequent, but it's also going to be more consistent. So just some food for thought. Either way, at this point here, we look at the hourly time frame, we can recognize as well, we're back under the cloud, conversion lines below the baseline, lagging spans about to intersect with the price action. So these are just not favorable signs you want to trade into, okay? So I really don't recommend any kind of trading at this point. I would say, generally speaking, if the price action pulls back any further, then it may be worth considering a long around 94 to 95,000, just based on the fact that we're stuck in a range. Same thing as well. We get up to 98 to 99,000. I'll probably be interested in maybe opening a second short. But once more, I'm not super motivated to just jump right into a trade right now because we have a little bit of green and the market's just recovering. Keep in mind, this is very temporary. I do not foresee altcoins surging this weekend. It's super uncommon if history repeats itself at all. They're going to surge to the downside if there is such a thing. Okay, so just be mindful. More propensity for further downside. So I kind of hope we get a little inflated this weekend so we can secure some profits tomorrow on any potential longs, but more importantly, open some shorts as the weekend starts coming to a close. Cool. All right, folks, that's all we got. Make sure you check out Bitunix too, link down below. Awesome exchange, more benefits, of course, there for anyone who's in our community. And tune into our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, where I provide you with some playout charts and just some general thoughts and ideas on the coins that I analyze. I hope you all have a good rest of your day, though, folks. Look forward to seeing the next one. Take care.